National championship time, people. Washington versus Michigan. Number 1 versus number 2. This is the national championship that we all deserve. 14-0 versus 14-0. Who's going to win this thing? This is one of the most interesting national championship games that I can recall in the last couple of years, because you got two teams that are really different stylistically. Michigan is a tough, hard-nosed football team that not only are you going to have to go to war for them for 60 minutes, but you're about to get ready to go to battle against a team that is ready to impose their will against you. And they're a more physical team than what Washington is. And that was pretty apparent with what they did to Alabama's offensive line. They got 6 sacks on Jalen Milroe. Alabama couldn't get anything going in the passing game. And Washington is something that Michigan has not seen all season long. They haven't seen a team that has the kind of offensive philosophy that Washington has. You see, Washington isn't a team that needs the run game to be effective offensively. As a matter of fact, they don't need the running game at all. Like, their star running back, Dylan Johnson, he may not be able to go in this game. I don't think it's too big of a loss when you got 3 NFL caliber wide receivers. And it's really difficult for any defense to shut down an offense that has 3 NFL wide receivers that are big-bodied, really long, lengthy, and incredibly fast. Rome Odunze is going to be probably matched up against Will Johnson. Will Johnson is one of the best cornerbacks in all of college football. We're going to see just how good he is when he's going against Rome Odunze. And they got a really good secondary. You got Mike Sanders still. You got a lot of other guys there. These guys are really going to get tested against this Washington secondary. Defensively, Michigan has the formula for being able to slow down this offense. You see, Washington hasn't seen a defense like Michigan. Now, against Texas, you went up against a team that was pretty stout on their front 7, but they didn't have it on the back end. Michigan, they have everything. They got a fantastic front 7, a defensive line that can get after you, and an incredible secondary. And the last time Washington went up against a team that had a similar style of play that Michigan has, it was Oregon State. And that Oregon State game was fairly close. Oregon State, they're not exactly like Michigan, but they have a little bit of the same mentality that Michigan has. They're tough. They're really good up front. Washington has the best offensive line in college football, according to the people who give out the Joe Moore Award, which goes to the best offensive line in college football. And a lot of people were shocked at the fact that Washington's offensive line gave up 0 sacks against Texas, who had one of the better pass rushes in college football. Michigan was getting pressure on Jalen Milroe, no matter if it was just rushing for or if they were sending everybody. Against Michael Penix, you got to find a way to make this dude uncomfortable in the pocket. Because if you give this dude all day to throw and you can't get after him, then the same thing that happened to Texas is going to happen to you. Michael Penix was unconscious in that semifinal game against Texas. He was stepping up in the pocket. He was making great throws. Even when there was a little bit of pressure in his face, he can do everything. He has a good amount of mobility to pick up a couple of yards here and there. If you give him a little bit of green grass, he's going to be more difficult to game plan for than what Jalen Milroe was. Because Jalen Milroe isn't that great of a passer. All you have to worry about was keeping this guy inside the pocket. Michael Penix, he can do it all. Run, throw it, anything. And these wide receivers, they're like cheat codes. If you just give them a little bit of a free release off the line, they're going to kill you downfield. Michigan's defense has to play their best defense that we've seen them play in the last 3 years. You see, offensively, I feel really confident that Michigan is going to be able to have success moving the football on Washington defensively, because Texas did. But why I'm a little bit concerned about Washington's defense more in this game than I was against Texas is because Texas is a pass-happy team and Quinn Ewers isn't that great of a QB. You see, Michigan does what Washington struggled to do last game, and that was stopping the run. You see, it was idiotic to me how Steve Sarkisian just kept on calling passing plays when one of his running backs was averaging at 9.4 yards per attempt. We know in Michigan, if there's any team that's going to run the football, it's going to be these boys. Let's not forget, they beat Penn State ending that game running the football 31 straight times. And if there was ever a game to run that football 31 straight times again, is against a Washington front that doesn't look all that fit to be able to stop a team that has this kind of approach when it comes to running the football. Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards, they're the best 1-2 punch in all of college football. Blake Corum, it's the tough grinding out, just get a few 5-6 yard carries here and there. And Donovan Edwards is the big home run threat. He's the guy that is the threat to take it to the crib anytime he touches the football. Blake Corum doesn't have that same level of explosiveness that Donovan Edwards has. Now, what Michigan did to Bama, which was a different wrinkle that I haven't seen them execute this season, is that they had another running back that they got implemented into the offense. And there was times when they had 2-3 running backs on the field and you didn't know who was going to get the ball. Washington has to go all out on making sure they can get this rushing attack of Michigan neutralized. And it's really hard to stop this Michigan offense because this is probably the most balanced offense in all of college football. They can beat you on the ground and they can beat you through the air. J.J. McCarthy had a pretty nice game. A lot of people would say otherwise, but I thought he played pretty well. He was extending plays. He made some big throws under pressure. And when you're able to make big throws against Alabama's defense with how good their secondary is and how good their pass rush is, you feel confident about your ability to do that against Washington. Now, Washington has a guy on defense that I think is going to cause a lot of problems for Michigan's offense, and that's Bralen Trice. Now, we know that they're without one of the best offensive linemen in college football, Zach Minter. He's an All-American, and Bralen Trice, he's probably a guy who is going to give Michigan's O-line a lot of fits in this game. Now, you did a really good job against Dallas Turner and the pass rushers that Alabama has, but Bralen Trice, he's just as good as what Dallas Turner is, in my opinion. Well, maybe not as good, but he's still a guy who I would take in the first round. And Washington's secondary, they're not great, but they're not necessarily bad neither. They're in between. So Michigan offensively, when you look at how they match up against Washington defensively, if they can find a way to slow down Bralen Trice, then that's pretty much the only guy on this defense that really is capable of having game-changing ability to really just take this game over. If you don't allow Bralen Trice to take this game over for Washington defensively, you should be able to move the football with a good amount of success. Now, I don't think that Washington's defense is just going to allow Michigan to move the ball up and down the field every single drive. They're going to get a couple of stops here or there. You want to know why? Because they are a well-coached defense. And not only are they a well-coached defense, but they are an overall well-coached team. Jim Harbaugh is a great head coach. This dude has won at the highest of levels everywhere that he's been. He's in the national championship now. He went to the Super Bowl. He won 3 straight NFC championships, or he went to 3 straight NFC championships. But Kalen DeBoer, this dude is a prodigy at head coach. He is the best kept secret in college football. A lot of people from a national standpoint don't know how much of a stud this dude is. He was winning 3 national titles coaching NAIA, making under a 7-figure salary. So this dude is going to have this team ready, and they're going to be well coached and well prepared for this game. And like I said, offensively, Washington is a tough team to beat. They got 3 NFL caliber wide receivers. There aren't a lot of teams that are 3 deep at cornerback. Thankfully, Michigan happens to be. So these cornerbacks against these Washington wide receivers are going to be the biggest, most intriguing matchup of this game. And we got 2 really solid quarterbacks. Well, you got J.J. McCarthy, who's pretty solid. You got Michael Penix, who was looking like a damn prodigy last week against Texas. And you see, if you're going to be able to beat Michigan, you need outstanding quarterback play. You see, there's a popular sentiment going around that if C.J. Stroud played for Ohio State this year, Ohio State would have beaten Michigan. Now, of course, that's just a scenario. That's just, hypothesis that people like to run with. But if that is true, then Michigan could be in a little bit of trouble. Because Michael Penix, this dude can do it all. He's efficient. He's accurate. He makes great decisions with the football. He's great at reading coverages. So Michigan is going to have to throw a lot at this dude to get this dude off rhythm. But a good thing about Michigan's defense is that they have the capability of getting Michael Penix off balance. I've watched nearly every single Washington Huskies game this year, and I don't even live on the West Coast. I know more about Washington than the majority of people who are talking about this game on a national level. Michael Penix is a great quarterback, but there's been several games I've watched this season when he started out a little bit slow. You see, the key to Washington being able to beat Texas last week was that Michael Penix had to get off to a fast start. And in a game like this, Michigan, they got to get Michael Penix a little bit rattled out the gate. And how can you do that? Getting pressure on him and find a way to slow down these wide receivers. You're not going to be able to shut down these wide receivers. You can only hope to contain them, which you're going to have the ability to do because of how great your secondary is and your ability to generate pressure with your front seven. And if your pass rush can get home, then it gives the guys that are in coverage against these guys less times that they have to stay in coverage with these wide receivers. But on the same time, it works the same way if the roles are reversed. Let's say that this secondary does do a great job at slowing down these wide receivers just a tad bit when they can get the rhythm and timing off. Then that just allows his pass rush just a little bit more time to get after Michael Penix. Like, we know that Washington has a great offensive line, but they're not going to be able to guard this dude for 10, 20 seconds every single play. Like, there's going to be moments when Michigan is going to get home. And you see Texas, they tried to get after Michael Penix. They tried to send some exotic looks at him. They tried to send some studs and some blitzes at him, and they did a great job picking him up. Michigan, they were killing Alabama every single time they sent pressure. But one thing that Alabama didn't have that Washington does have is a center that knows how to snap the fucking football. Alabama's center didn't know anything about giving Jalen Milroe a good snap. I don't even know how they even made it that far, having that bad of a center snapping the football for him. But whatever, this is about Washington, Michigan, the national championship. This is a really good offensive line, and this is a really good defensive line. We're really about to see who's about to win this battle up front. And the thing about Washington is that they're a pass-heavy team. You know what they're going to do the majority of the time. Now, if Dylan Johnson comes back, they're going to put more emphasis on trying to be a little bit more balanced. But even when he was in the game, like, he was only averaging 2.3 yards per attempt. And that's not really the identity of Washington's offense. Their identity is they want to push the football downfield, and they want to destroy you with these NFL wide receivers they have who are all big bodies. They're all like 180 plus. They're over 6 feet tall. They're long, rangy, and really hard to stay in phase with. You got to limit the big plays if you're Michigan, and your defense does a great job at that. And I'm really fascinated to see how Michigan's defense is going to game plan for this offense, because they haven't seen an offense like this since when they last went up against C.J. Stroud in Ohio State back in 2022. So you might have to have a similar game plan that you had in that game when C.J. Stroud was playing for Ohio State the previous year, and bring that game plan into this one. Now, Washington, you are going to have to be able to not allow Michigan to bully ball you. You can't allow these boys to push you around, which shouldn't happen when it comes to your offensive line versus their defensive line. At most, I think Washington is probably going to give up maybe 2-3 sacks at most. Okay, I don't expect for Michigan's front seven to just be pushing around Washington and pushing their weight around like how they did against Alabama. Your offensive line is way better coached and just more talented. Now, on the other end, I don't know about how Washington's defensive line is going to hold up. So the best thing that you can do is try to put Michigan in situations where you can win on the early downs and put them in third and long situations. And sometimes with Michigan, I think that they get away from what they do the best at times, which is running the football. Against Alabama, there were moments early in that game when they came out throwing the football, and it damn near costed them an interception. I was like, bro, what the hell are you doing coming out throwing the football if y'all don't run the ball? So Michigan last week against Bama, they did a really good job at belittling Alabama's defense. They did a lot of unique things offensively from a schematic standpoint that confused Alabama's defense to the point when Nick Saban had those boards on the sideline, he was like, hey, like, you got to account for the motion. You got to communicate. Washington defensively, they got to make sure that the offense that Michigan is going to be running out there, doesn't confuse them, and everybody's in the right positions. You don't want to give Michigan any plays due to blown coverages or missed assignments because they're really good at that. If they can make Alabama have missed assignments with Nick Saban being a defensive-minded coach, you could run into the same problem. All right. Now, who's the more talented team? I don't think that matters because stylistically, this is what makes this game so interesting. It's not about talent. All right. Both of these two teams are 14-0, and nobody expected neither one of these two teams to really be in this position. Like at the start of the year, there were a good amount of people saying Michigan was going to win the national championship. But last week, the majority of bettors had their money on Alabama. Both of these two teams have overcome tons of adversity. All right, Washington has been in a bunch of one-possession games, and they're really good at being able to win these one-possession games. Michigan has had to overcome these off-the-field distractions with the whole cheating scandal thing, and they've took what could have been a distraction and what could have derailed their perfect season and their national title aspirations, and instead of that being a distraction to them, they've used that as motivation, and they've rallied behind it. You see, when you're going up against Michigan, not only are you getting ready to play a 60-minute football game, but you're about to go to absolute war. These guys are tough. They're gritty. They're nasty. Listen, I had a hard time picking who I thought was going to win this game. I really did. And I picked against Michigan all season long, and I'm going to continue to pick against them again. I'm going with Washington, people. I'm going with the Huskies. I'm going with the underdogs, people. I've been rocking with Washington all the way since the season first began. I picked them to win the Pac-12. I picked them to make it to the college football playoffs. And I had them damn near making it to the national championship. Like this offense with these three elite wide receivers that they have and Michael Penix at QB, they're like a diet version of what LSU was back in 2019. I'm not saying they are exactly like 2019 LSU. All I'm saying is that they are a diet version of what that team was. You know, they don't have like 3 first round or 3 top 10 wide receivers like how they did Terrence Marshall, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, but they do have 3 wide receivers, one with Dunze being the best one who probably could be a top 5, top 10 pick. Jalen Pogue, McMillan, all those other guys probably could be like late first rounders, early second round guys. But then you got Michael Penix slinging that football. I feel like Michigan's defense is not going to be able to get enough key stops when it matters the most against Michael Penix in his passing attack. Like, I get that they got a really good pass rush, but they haven't seen an offensive line this stout of what Washington has. All right. Washington at best probably is going to give up maybe 2-3 sacks at the most in this game. I'm rolling with Washington because I trust Michael Penix in this game. I trust Kalen DeBoer. This dude is the best kept secret in all of college football. And when Washington wins the national championship, everybody is going to know just how good of a coach this dude actually is. And this is a precursor because both of these two teams are going to be in the Big Ten next year. And you potentially could see Washington once again if you're Michigan in the Big Ten championship. This dude is an outstanding football coach. All right. He doesn't have any more than 11 losses in his career, not just in Division I college football, but just in his coaching career in general. This dude is winning national championships, coaching NAIA, making less than a 7-figure salary. So I know I've doubted Michigan all season long, and I've been rocking with Washington all season long, and that isn't really changing. So if you want to call me a Michigan hater, go ahead. Yeah, I mean, you can call me a hater all you want to, but I'm not really picking against you this time because I just want you to lose. I'm really picking against you this time because I truthfully believe that Washington is going to be able to win this game. You may be the more talented team on paper, but styles make fights. And the style of Washington's offense and their wide receivers and Michael Penix at QB, it's just something that not too many teams have been able to find a way to have a formula to stop. And I think that Washington gets that 15th win. They go undefeated and they win their national championship for the first time under Kalen DeBoer. Now, I say first time winning a national championship under Kalen DeBoer. I don't know if they've won championships in the past, but I don't know. But all I know is that the Huskies are going to get it done, people. I'm taking the Huskies 31-27. 28 is my final score prediction in this game. I think we're going to be in for an all-time classic. Michael Penix engineers a game-winning drive that sets up the game-winning field goal by Washington's kicker, and they win the Natty.